A single violin note sliced through the airport noise. Passengers froze. And for a moment, Rome Airport forgot how to breathe. It started near gate F12, where a young airport worker in a neon vest stood scanning boarding passes. At least, that's what everyone thought. What no one noticed was the violin case lying quietly beside him, old, worn, and completely out of place in a terminal full of rolling suitcases. He checked one last ticket, smiled politely, and then did something no one expected. He lifted the violin. The bow touched the string. The first soft notes of perfect filled the air, delicate, trembling, magical. People turned their heads like they were following a scent. A mother paused mid-step. A businessman lowered his phone. A child gasped, grabbing her father's hand. "This isn't the airport music, right?" someone whispered. The young violinist wasn't looking at the crowd. His eyes were closed, as if he was pouring years of emotion into the melody. Each note echoed off the marble floor and glass walls, turning the busy terminal into something that felt warm, nostalgic, almost sacred. Slowly, from behind a pillar, another figure stepped forward. A man in a traveler's coat, carrying a cello. He set the instrument down, tightened the bow, and locked eyes with the violinist. A silent signal passed between them, and the harmony began. Passengers forgot their flights, their luggage, their urgency. Something extraordinary was taking shape, and everyone could feel it, even if they didn't yet understand what was coming. The harmony between the violin and cello moved like a warm breeze through the terminal, soft, gentle, impossible to ignore. Travelers gathered instinctively, forming a loose circle around the musicians. Some smiled shyly, others recorded the moment as if afraid it might vanish. Then, something subtle happened. A woman in a bright red dress, seemingly just another passenger waiting for her flight, closed her book, stood up, and stepped forward. She adjusted her sunglasses, and then lifted her chin. Her voice entered the music like a whisper turning into a sunrise. "I found a love for me." People around her gasped. A couple dropped their boarding passes. A kid's jaw fell open. The woman sang with a softness that filled the air, each note echoing off the tall glass windows. Emotion washed across the crowd like a wave, surprise, warmth, disbelief. But she wasn't alone. A barista carrying a tray of coffee cups paused mid-shift, tilted her head, and joined the melody with a gentle harmony. The passengers didn't realize she was part of the flashmob, her apron still on, her hair tied in a messy bun. A man pushing a luggage cart began tapping rhythmically on its metal frame. A security guard leaned against a pillar, humming with perfect pitch. A cleaner sweeping the floor slowed down, then matched the beat with her broom. One by one, people who looked like regular staff revealed themselves as performers. The airport, once filled with the usual noise of announcements and wheels rolling, now buzzed with a different energy, something alive, coordinated, and beautifully human. The violinist opened his eyes for the first time, looked around at the growing circle, and smiled. The flash mob was unfolding. But the real explosion hadn't even started yet. The music swelled, richer, fuller, almost too perfect for an airport terminal. And then, it happened. A security officer near the check-in counters placed his hand on his walkie-talkie like he was about to stop the performance. Passengers tensed, thinking he would shut everything down. But instead, he took a step forward, spun smoothly on his heel, and began dancing. The crowd erupted with laughter and cheers. The officer, still in full uniform, moved with practiced grace, sliding across the floor like he'd been rehearsing for months. A baggage handler rolled in a cart, jumped onto it, and rode it like a moving stage, clapping in perfect rhythm. 2 cafe workers burst out of the line, tossing aprons aside and joining the choreography. The lead singer in the red dress hit the chorus. Her voice soared. The dancers responded in perfect sync, as if the airport had suddenly transformed into a movie set. Phones shot into the air. Travelers screamed in delight. Even the airport announcements paused, almost respectfully, letting the music take over. A couple standing near gate F10 suddenly locked eyes. Without hesitation, they began slow dancing, right there between rows of suitcases. The crowd cheered louder, because in that moment, the airport wasn't a terminal anymore. It was a fairy tale ballroom. Dancers twirled. Musicians played with fierce passion. Children joined in, copying the steps with pure joy. Everything, the lights, the echoes, the energy, felt magical. And yet, a ripple of movement from the far end of the terminal hinted that the flashmobs still had one final surprise hidden. The sound of footsteps echoed from the far end of the terminal. At first, no one noticed. But then a group of arriving passengers, at least a dozen of them, dropped their bags in unison. Every head in the terminal turned. They weren't random travelers. They were dancers. And as the chorus of Perfect swelled again, they stepped forward together, moving like a single heartbeat. Their timing was flawless, smooth spins, gentle sways, and elegant lifts that turned the airport floor into a glowing stage. The crowd gasped. A little girl tugged her mother's sleeve, whispering, "Mom, is this a dream?" But the moment that truly stole every breath came next. An elderly couple, quiet, shy, unnoticed until now, was gently guided into the center of the circle by two performers. The old man hesitated, then took his wife's hand, just like he must have decades ago. They began to dance. Slow. Soft. Perfect. The crowd fell silent. No phones moved. No suitcases rolled. Just an old love story shining under airport lights. Tears glimmered in the eyes of strangers. Even some of the performers looked emotional as they sang and danced around the couple, creating a living halo of music and movement. The airport didn't feel like an airport anymore. It felt like a memory people would carry forever. And as the dancers lifted their arms in a sweeping finale, circling the couple with a wave of synchronized motion, something even more powerful was building behind them, gathering for the final moment that would stun everyone. The flash mob wasn't done yet. Not even close. The music softened, dipping into the final verse of Perfect. The dancers stepped back, widening the circle. The elderly couple remained in the center, glowing under the warm airport lights. Then, the violinist lifted his bow high. A single, crystal-clear note rang out. Every performer in the terminal froze. The passengers watched, stunned, as the entire flash mob, musicians, dancers, airport staff, travelers, baristas, security officers, shifted into one final, breathtaking formation. And as the last chorus began, they moved as one. A sweeping wave of motion. A rising harmony. A perfect explosion of voice and melody. The red-dressed singer stepped forward for the final line. Her voice cracked with emotion, strong, beautiful, unforgettable. The cello answered her. The violin wrapped around the melody like a ribbon of light. Children rushed into the center, laughing. Parents clapped along. Even tired travelers with delayed flights smiled like they'd just witnessed something sacred. The final note hit. Pure, warm, shimmering in the air. And then, silence. For one heartbeat, the entire Rome airport just stood there, breathing in the magic. Then the performers bowed, deep, graceful, synchronized. The terminal exploded with applause. People cheered, whistled, cried, hugged strangers. Dozens of phones captured the moment that no one would soon forget. And the performers? They didn't stay to take credit. They simply smiled, picked up their bags, and melted back into the airport crowd as if nothing happened. Within seconds they were gone. But the feeling they left behind? That stayed. And every passenger knew they had witnessed the most beautiful flash mob Rome airport had ever seen. A perfect moment, in a place where no one expected perfection.